All right, so let's figure out how to use an SLA printer or our Formlabs printers. So first, let's hop over to Fusion, and I've got my model out. So got the finished ring, all of that stuff. And remember, one of the things, while the requirement for the assignment was 2 separate objects, you do want to actually join these together. So it's a singular entity, so it's a single object. So all that would mean is go to your combine tool, select one, select the other, complete that. I'm not going to do that right here because I have a different model already set. So I'm going to cancel that and just go over to the one that is already printed. So they're both sharing the same color because they're the same thing. I open the drop down, it's one solid thing. So there we go. Same deal. You can go to export, but I prefer using 3D print. It seems to convert faster. Go to 3D print, disable utility, although you can actually use Preform directly out of this. So you can actually go directly out. But just for the sake of consistency, I'm going to disable that, and we're going to print it just as is. So if you want, because this is a smaller thing, if you have higher detail, you might want to check the refinement and go higher. Go to high refinement if you would like. It's up to you. It's not really going to affect too much, but if you have a high detail thing, you want to make sure you're using high detail. So just save 3 minute. Yep, that's fine. Saving in on a computer downloads. Okay, great. Okay, so now let me hop over to Preform. So this is the interface for Formlabs. So it's very similar to most all of them. You can also use Cura, which is the Ultimaker Cura platform. It also supports Formlabs, but just know that there are some differences in the interface itself. Now, first thing, well, let me bring the model in. Where is it? Drop in a model. Come on. No. Good God. There it is. So you just bring your model in, drag and drop, and you're good to go. Except, there we go. Now, immediately you're going to get some errors like, oh, your model needs more support. Yeah, of course, because it's just floating right now in space. Because one of the things to remember is the printers are printing upside down. Unlike with the filament printers, where you're printing directly on the print platform, in this, you cannot print directly on the print platform. Even if your model is a flat model, you cannot print directly on the platform, because the filament printers and such, your material is slightly flexible, all that sort of thing. With the resin, you're usually printing a rigid model. Now, yes, there are flexible resins. We'll get to that later, but either way, you cannot print directly on the platform. You have to have a supported model. So I've printed my object. It's 1:1 scale, and it's just going to automatically drop it in the corner there. That's fine. It doesn't need to be in the middle. A lot of other slicers plop your model right in the middle. This one off in the corner. Ultimately, it's that way you can add. Let's copy and paste a lot more. And then when I go to auto arrange, whole bunch of it. So it'll automatically, just like anything else, it'll automatically build up the platform. But I don't want all of those, so let's go ahead and chop them all out. There we go. Now, on your left is all your settings. Most or all of these are going to have, except for scale because that's manually inputted, orientation, supports, layout, and then the orange button is your start print. These all have automatic options: auto orient, auto generate support. Honestly, until you are getting much more experience with this and have much more knowledge about exactly what you want, use the autofills. There's no reason not to. So we'll go ahead and hit auto orient. Now, this is not always going to create the same consistency. So if I hit it again, it keeps changing. Mainly because this is currently incomplete, but it's going to be giving me some warnings. You see on the right-hand side and at the bottom, Orange, it's building directly on the platform. That's a no-no. The other one, minima, that is basically the same thing. It's an overhang. It can't print in free space. So what you need are supports. The next one down, this little like crab walking little symbol, this is auto generate supports. Now, yes, you can edit them in. There's two different main versions. None is none, and you really don't want that. It's not good. I said you cannot print directly on the platform. You really shouldn't. You don't want to. It is technically possible. It's just not a great option because it'll bond to the platform so well. So you have two options here, rafts and mini rafts. As you can see, what happens is it creates this whole support platform, either a full raft or mini rafts where it's just where the supports touch down. So I'm going to use it as full raft and you'll see what happens. I hit auto generate. It's going to go ahead and move along. Now it's created this whole thing here. Now, one of the main reasons you cannot print directly on the platform is because usually you're using an SLA printer, a resin printer, because you want something with a lot more detail and it's not a flat shape. You probably have a more organic shape. Now, you can see the auto-generated supports here are all this like scaffolding-like things. These are the supports, but neat thing is, unlike the filament printers where it's pretty much even through and through, these shrink as it gets closer to the object and creates a minimal contact point. So you'll end up just being able to clip away that little bit. But you can change this around. So right now it's on full raft. You can use one of the other options, mini rafts. Auto-generate. And it just shrinks the amount. Again, really this is just about making best use of your materials. In this case, I would go with full raft. It helps the most. But if you feel that there is just too many supports, you can dial that back. It's in quantities of 0 to 1. So if you want half of that, 0.5. Let's auto-generate with full raft and half of the support density. There you go. So it just reconfigures to what it feels is best. Now, if I were to go back and auto-orient, it might reconfigure it entirely. Yep, see, it changed it around even more. So these are just going off of generated expectations, and it'll regenerate based on that. If you feel that it should be in a different orientation, try it out. You're not gonna. The worst thing that'll happen is it won't print well. You're not going to damage anything, nothing like that. So, all right, we've got it there. Don't auto-orient or auto-layout if you like. Sure, it might just move it around back into the corner. All right, so technically, if you already had everything good to go, you could go ahead, hit start print. But you can't yet because we got to have something else. On the right side, you have your option stuffs. Now, just like with the Preform Sclicer and such, it'll give you estimates, 2 hours to print that. That's not bad. But thing is because it prints because the laser does move quickly, even though it's tracing everything, multiples in the same layer print or don't add that much time. So I could say, let me copy and paste now that I've got a good idea of what one would take. Let's copy and paste a couple. So let's auto-orient those. And because I had a completed model, it keeps all the prints there. So adding 2 more only added 45 minutes to the print time. So even though like the discussion was, SLA printers are slower than LCD or DLP types, adding more objects doesn't really add a lot of time because yes, the laser has to trace everything, but it's a laser. It goes freaking fast. So it's up to you. If you want to try printing a bunch of them, or if you would like to print something and you want to combine with other people, you could have multiple prints going on at the same time on the same platform. That's fine. But let's just go ahead and chop those last couple out because I don't want them just printing one. All right, back to 2 hours. Most important part, though, is making sure you have the correct printer. So the large brick selection here up in the upper right-hand corner, printer type. Now, it's currently saying no printer selected because I don't physically have a printer connected. You select this, it's going to bring up all your options. Now, what we have is a Form 2. Now, if it's physically connected, like the printer is over on this desktop, it'll bring up, I think it's an auto-generated name because it's called like Fluffy Leopard or something like that. or somebody gave it a cool name, whatever. Down below, you can see the materials. Now, they have the cartridge, the resin cartridge it takes has a chip in it, so it auto detects what type of resin you have just to make sure. But we're using the clear resin. And then down at the bottom, you have your layer options, layer thickness. So just like the different settings when we were printing with the Prusa printers, same thing here. 0.1 fastest, so it's 0.1 millimeter per layer. Half of that, 0.05 millimeters, or a quarter of that, 0.025 millimeters. If you're printing something like jewelry, definitely go with the absolute finest. Sorry, I couldn't see what the word was. And go there. Okay, so we're using a Form 2 clear resin. It should auto detect this. The computer will auto detect this. Just on this video, this recording, it's not because I don't have it physically connected. Click OK. Now, because I changed the settings for the layer height, it changes the calculation. So all you do is just import these settings. So all that's doing is importing the raft choice, the supports density, and orientation, stuff like that. Okay, so at maximum detail, that's now going to take 6 hours. So yeah, this is where that definitely comes into where SLA can get a little slow. But again, just for reference, let's copy and paste a couple and just see what happens. So it says it'll take 6.5 hours or 6 hours, 15 minutes. For 3 of them, 7 hours, 30 minutes. Now that is again because we're using the highest quality setting. Honestly, for what this is, for what you're doing, I would stick with the fastest, the 0.1 millimeters. I have found that is plenty well detailed. For those of you in the room, I just printed up this tiny skull at that quality. I'll apply this and I'll switch back. Yep, import. While that's calculating, I'll stop share so y'all can see on the screen. This teeny little skull that whether or not it actually focuses, I can't tell very well. But that took about an hour and a half. Yeah. So little thing about the size of a marble.
How long would that have taken on
the filament printers would not be able to print this. It's too tiny.
Oh, yeah.
Think of the difference of how wide is a laser beam, or at least in this case, it's real teeny, probably about the width of a hair. Whereas that, you're dependent, where on the filament printers, you're dependent on the thickness of the nozzle itself. You can always play with the height settings, because that's what I was just adjusting, the 0.1, 0.5, or 0.05, 0.025, that sort. With the filament printers, you have the different settings of 0.3, 0.2, and 0.1, much bigger numbers. So with this teeny little skull, the filament printers could not print that. It's much too tiny. But now that I've changed back to the faster settings, all right, yeah, 3 of them, 2 hours, 45 minutes. So just know that you have some options. I have found that changing at least for what we're printing, changing the detail doesn't really make that big of a difference in the quality of the print. Obviously, it adds a lot of time. So that's pretty much the rundown. Once you have all these set, your thing's already set, you can hit go to print, and this is again physically not connected, but you hit add to queue. It will upload into the onboard memory of the Formlab or the Form printer. These printers do have an onboard memory, unlike our Prusa printers, which you have to use the SD card and leave it in. This one has an onboard memory. You load it. It'll prompt you to print on the screen it's going to preheat a little bit. It's going to ask you to make sure the print bed is clean, which is same thing we've been doing, only it's the upside down print bed for the SLA printers. And you'll open the lid for the for the resin bank attached to the back of the printer, and then and then it'll prompt you, hit go, and you do. So that's pretty much the rundown. I encourage you to use these, especially for if you're printing your jeweled objects, because that's going to be the best possible option versus the versus the filament printers. So try it out.